Shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all praise, honor, and glory to the Most High, Yahweh, Ba'Hashem Yahweh Shai, Ba'Hashem Rakak. And I want to say shalom to Akim Nakwalt out there pursuing this truth diligently, coming at you with another lesson. And this one's I just came across, I was kind of, struggling to find a topic today, and I was here on YouTube, and I think I am subscribed to this guy. This guy is Schuler King. Sometimes he makes some funny videos and whatnot, but the way he does his funny videos is kind of like how he used to do those videos with, what was his name? I still got him on Instagram. It's Richie Gatz. All right, he does a little bit of ridiculous shit that he does that I don't like, but he has a lot of good videos on there that that I stay subscribed for. He tries to do some sexually promiscuous dances that pander to the females. I'm not a fan of that shit, but he always does a lot of these videos, like standard like black guy content creator where they're calling people out for doing some fucking crazy ass shit. For example, Richie Gatz is known for the he goes, bitch, what the fuck, right? Or he goes, I know you fucking lying, because what the fuck, right? So, or he does another one and says, if you think of what I'm thinking, we friends now. But Schuler King kind of does the same type of thing, where he basically comments on some crazy-ass videos that he's seen. That's what both of these individuals do. Schuler King, Richie Gatz, who's another individual. There's another individual. He has dreads and he wears a bandana. I can't remember his name. But I like, subscribing to their videos because what they do is they basically go and find videos on TikTok or whatnot that are crazy, heinous, or they have something crazy going on, and they'll just talk some sense about it, right? Just talk some sense. Like talking to an unk at a barbecue, right? He's going to give you some advice on what he thinks about the situation, right? So this but Schuler King says, nah, I'm not hungry, and I'm just going to go ahead and let it play for you. I saw this. I said, I'm just going to do a little short lesson on this because this shit is ridiculous. Now, I didn't know people ate this. This is not something I knew, and I actually had to do a little bit of research to find out what this is. Thankfully, in one of the comments, a lot of people were trying to say it was turtle. It's not turtle. We'll get into and actually show you what it is in just a moment, but I'm going to let it rip and see what he has to say. I'm going to listen too because I actually didn't listen to too much what he had to say. I was just too enamored by these things flopping around on the side, seemingly dead, but, all the nerve endings going crazy. So, anyway, here you go.
Ladies and gentlemen, anybody want to tell me what in the flipping frying fiasco is going on here? I don't know what this is. All right, maybe I'm out of touch. I know somebody be looking, well, you don't know what that is. That might be fry. I don't know. All I know is that's already dead and cut. Why is it still moving? I'm not trying to eat no ghosts. Why is that still in motion? We not supposed to be, nah. Nah, we ain't, no. No, we no. Nah, all I can say is no. We not gonna eat that. No, we good. Now I'm gonna go find me somewhere to eat. We not eating that. It's the, why is it move? Like,
and that's a basic human reaction, right? That's how you should be, right? You see something like, I'm not eating that, right? We should have, as humans, we should have a better instinct than going around and putting whatever the hell in our mouth, right? That's survival instincts. You gotta feel things out. This fucking shit's flopping around on the goddamn grill. There's not too many things that does that, right? Chicken doesn't do that. Steak doesn't do that, right? Lamb don't do that. Goat don't do that, all right? I can't think of anything that does do that. There's only a couple things. Well, I can think of a couple things. The only two things that I know that does that now is this. And then before this, I knew about snake. Okay? I knew about snake. And there's another fish. It's not a bass. Sometimes certain fish, if you get them real fresh and you salt them, the salt can make the nerve endings, fire off and stuff. But they're not doing it like whatever the fuck this shit's going on. This shit's some weird shit. That shit's like snake, all right? Because I've seen people, chop up snake and do all that and try to do it, and it kind of squirms like that. But the fish, I know fish can do it if there's salt, because I guess salt activates nerve endings or something that stimulates it somehow. I don't know what that is. That's just, an anomaly. It's the salt that's doing it. It's not doing it by itself. But this shit's just flopping up, doing some crazy shit. And I don't know why anybody would look at that and say, that's appetizing. I want to eat that. That's something that I want. All right, so let's continue play it. Matter of fact, I'm going to turn on subtitles so I can just hear it a little bit better. Because I got to hold my ear to the phone because I don't have the headphone with me.
If it's moving now, like, when is it going to stop moving? How you think I'm supposed to put that in my mouth and chew it? Next thing you know, I be done boo-booed and my boo-boo jumping around in the toilet. Liable to jump out I'm not doing that. That food has not been prepped right. What's that supposed to be? Gator bites, nuggets? What is that? Dumplings? I don't, look, y'all good. You can have that. That's for you and your family. You and your family. Me and mine, we straight. We good. You can keep the meal of Christmas past. I'm good on that.
Take these and get rid of them.
So, there you go. You see it. So, actually, if I can go to the comments, you see it right here. This is Korean grilled hagfish. Okay, so it's coming out of Moab, right? It says, it is a popular delicacy in Korea, often referred to as a slime eel. The meat is known for twitching or moving even while on the grill due to muscular spasms. Okay, so you're not supposed to be eating this shit. Okay, that's what this lesson's about. We've talked about it time and time again, but this is a new addition to my knowledge of all things abominable, right? Because I've known about, all sorts of shit. Haggis, shouldn't be eating that because that's, you're eating organs. Fucking century eggs over there with Moab, eating, basically, it's an egg, you can eat it, yeah, but you're eating a rotten egg, you shouldn't be eating a rotten egg, what the hell's wrong with you, man? It was a fermented egg, yeah, but you shouldn't be eating that shit, you shouldn't be eating that, think about it, like, look, if I show you what a century egg looks like, if you don't know what it is, brothers and sisters, well, I wouldn't want to eat it if I could have it. If the Lord himself came down and said, yeah, that's clean, you can eat it, I wouldn't want to eat it if it wasn't clean. If it was clean. Of course, I don't want to eat it if it's unclean. But I wouldn't want to eat it if it was clean. Look at this motherfucker. Look at this shit. A century egg, a Chinese. Okay, most of the time it is still unclean, regardless, because it's usually a duck egg. Most of the time, from what I've heard, it's a duck egg, so it's still unclean. You shouldn't be eating that shit anyway. But I guess they can do chicken or quail. But look at this shit. Why would I want this? It says a Chinese preserved egg. They say preserved. It's preserve is fucking, that's, jumping through some hoops. It says typically duck, chicken, or quail cured in a mixture of clay, ash, salt, quicklime, and rice hunks for a week to month. Not a century. Process turns white into a dark brown jelly-like substance and the yolk into a creamy dark green or gray, strong umami flavor and ammonia smell. Why would you want that? Why would you want that? It's rotten, man. That's why it turns green. You want to know shit? You goddamn cooking up a goddamn science experiment in the fridge. You leave some shit, it starts getting moldy. That's when the shit starts going green. You shouldn't want to eat that. This shit looks like it come from a fucking different planet. Look at this shit. This looks like a goddamn mineral specimen that you see at some type of rock store, man. What is this shit? Why would you want to eat this? If you were, damn well, if you went into your fridge and you had an egg and it came out looking like this, you'd throw that shit away. All right, with these nasty ass Moabites, man, they say, my favorite. Why are you gonna eat that shit? That's nasty, man. All right, and a lot of the heathens, man, and that's the other thing, is let's go and get that first of all. We get that all the time, all right? Learn not the way of the heathen. This is, let's get it, Jeremiah. I guess we'll get it right here. Jeremiah 10 and 2 through 4. And it's going to read, it says, Thus saith the Lord, learn not the way of the heathen, and be not dismayed at the signs of heaven, or, for the heathen are dismayed at them. Now, another one is, there's another one that was dealing with, it's not Jeremiah 10 and 2. It's worded similarly. I can't remember how it goes. KJV scripture about not picking up the customs of heathens where the Lord sent us. It's no, it's not Jeremiah 10:2. There's another one. Let's see. Let's hit Jeremiah 10 again. No, it's not it. Let's see. There's another one. Leviticus. I think this might be it. This one will work. I think this is not the exact one. It's not. I don't think it's the exact one. There's a lot of scriptures that talk about, basically not learning. If you're going to one of these areas, all right, to conquer, or you're conquering these areas, and there's, they're around there, don't pick up on any of their customs. I got that in Jeremiah. There's a lot of other ones, but Leviticus 18:3 through 5 will do just as well. It says, after the doings of the land of Egypt, wherein ye dwelt, shall ye not do. And after doings of the land of Canaan, whither I bring you, shall ye not do. Neither shall you walk in their ordinances. This might have been the one I was thinking of. It says, ye shall do my judgments and keep my ordinances. That's the laws, right, that he set up for us. It says, to walk therein, I am the Lord, your power. Ye shall therefore keep my statutes and my judgments, which if a man do, he shall live in them. I am the Lord. And that's a big part of what I wanted to do this lesson is it's not anything that we don't know, right? We know about keeping the law, but there's new people that, sometimes with these videos, they come out of the woodworks, they, somehow stumble across it. But the other thing is that everything has a reason, all right? Not that we should have to have a reason, all right? The reason that the Lord said don't do it or do it should be reason enough. That's good enough. But if you really look into these things, because everyone, why the Lord say you can't eat pork? Why the Lord say? If you look into them, there's health issues, there's health connotations, and negative health effects that come from these different types of things that you do, okay? And there's a reason, okay? Not that we need to ask the reason why. All right, we're not we're not 2-3 years old. Sit down. Why? Because I told you to. Why? Because I told you to. Why? You're gonna go to your room. Why? Because you're asking too many questions. Why? Because I don't want you asking. Why don't you want me asking questions? Right? When you get the terrible 2s or 3s, they just want to ask question after question. Your question. We're gonna go to the store. Why? Well, because we're running out of food. Why? Because stop asking me so many goddamn questions, man. Right? But that's what Jake wants to play at, and even the heathens when it comes to dealing with the Lord and His laws. Okay, the heathens, when you talk about the Lord, why would He want? Why? You don't know anything. Okay, you don't know anything. And then Jake is that same spirit, like damn near acting like the heathens, man. They're spiritual terrors anyway. Well, why would they? Because He said not to do it. All right, said not to do it. When Esau says it's 45 miles per hour in a speed zone, why do you do 45? Why or go a couple over? Right? Why? Because you don't want to go to jail, right? There's an effect. Well, why should you keep the Lord's laws? Why? Because He'll kill you if not. Same thing, Esau. You keep Esau's laws, right? But you won't keep the Lord's laws. It's ridiculous, man. It's completely ridiculous. Completely just stupid. But getting into it, this is hagfish. So everything that the Lord, all these commandments, He gave us for a good reason, to keep us alive, as the scripture we just read said. All right, to keep us alive. It keeps us in good health. It keeps us doing what we're supposed to be doing. Keeps us on track. All right, gives us motives. All right, lets us know it has a base ground. All right, so it gives us a lot of people, a lot of worldly people. Use my mom as an example. All right, she's a heathen, Edomite woman, and for the most part, I could be wrong. All right, but it just seems to be that way. She's just kind of gone and sauced like that. Not dishonor. I love my mother and all, but some of the stuff she says, it's that worldly rhetoric, man. And I can only use her because, again, these are just the people that I talk to. I don't have contact with too many people. My parents were never religious growing up, but after I left, they both went their way. She ended up doing her thing, and my dad ended up getting involved in the Mormon church heavy. So I don't know. It's just ridiculousness, but she's one of those people that says, we have it in us directly to know, to make the right decisions. I say, well, how do we know? What do we use, though? How do we know if something's right or wrong? And she says, well, you just know. Well, how do we know, though? How do we know if something's right or wrong? How do I know? How do I know that stealing is wrong? right? How do I know that stealing is wrong? Well, it hurts another person. Well, okay, well, if you have $1 billion company, okay, and they're making all this money, can't I just go and steal from them then? It wouldn't be wrong because it's not really hurting them particularly. That's all. They're going to write that off. It's just going to be shrinking. They're going to write it off. And at the end of the day, they're going to get their tax money. They're not going to lose any money, right? They're not going to lose any money from it. It's not like if you're stealing from an individual that, handcrafts goods. So, that would be, is that a moral dilemma now? No, you can't steal. It doesn't matter if they're rich. Doesn't matter if they're poor. You especially shouldn't be stealing from the poor. But you shouldn't be stealing from anybody, all right? It doesn't say thou shalt not steal from only the poor. All right, it says thou shalt not steal. Okay? And regardless, still didn't steal from anybody. You're not supposed to be stealing, taking what's not rightfully yours. You shouldn't be stealing it. Okay? So that's the thing. But my mom and a lot of other people in the world, and like I said, I'm just saying because I had a conversation with my mom, recently, and that was the so we just have an innocent. I said, well, the Bible, all right, the Bible. It gives us everything. Because my mom, I mentioned her before. She likes some things in the Bible, but she doesn't like some things in the Bible. Well, the Bible is what we get our information from. How do we know, not to do certain things? It's the Bible, okay? And a lot of these people out in the world, go off on a tangent on that for a little bit, all of these people in the world, especially these atheists, and I was atheist at one point. Before I came to this truth, I was, primarily atheist. Agnostic atheist. I never could disprove God. That's the thing. You have these atheists. I can disprove God. Well, you can't. All right, even the most smart scientists like Neil deGrasse Tyson, you can't disprove the existence of a God. All right, they can say it's probably a high likelihood that it's not a thing that exists. All right, but they can't 100% disprove it. Again, because science is a practice, and it's constantly always evolving. And, it's just one of those things. So that's how I was out there. It's also because of a lot of the Christianity. Now, I heard actually a brother on the comment board not too long ago say, this is why I was atheist, because these Christians, talked all sorts of this crazy shit. And it's true. They don't know what they're talking about. All right? It just seems like everything they said was very contradicting, that it was a facade. All right? It seemed like a facade, right? I remember one time I was going to a movie when I was like 15 or 16 years old, and I was wearing some band merchandise, right? Some band merchandise. Had a clown and some shit on it. I can't remember exactly what it had. And a guy came up to me and says, well, will you devote your life to JC? And, wearing all this stuff, it's crazy, and I'm like, yeah, sure, why not? I'll just do it. He's like, all right, just pray after me, and prayed and all that stuff like that. Because he thought I was like a demon worshiper or stuff. I just really didn't believe too much, but I was like, it's the basic principalities. It's even a scientific study, If God exists and you don't believe in him, right? This is Christian, going off of Christian doctrine. If God exists and you don't believe in him, okay, you go to hell. If God exists and you do believe him, you go into heaven. Okay? If God doesn't exist, you don't go to hell and you don't go to heaven. Right? Nothing happens. So by just weighing your outcomes, it's always better to believe in God, right? That's a scientific. You can actually look that up. Believing in God outweighs the the cons, atheism. There's a parable. It's called Pascal's Wager. It says, even without definite proof of God, believing is the most rational choice because the potential reward, infinite bliss, vastly outweighs the finite losses associated with disbelief. So if you believe in God and God exists, you gain an infinite reward, heaven. If you believe in God and God does not exist, your losses are finite, right? If you're an atheist and God exists, you're going to hell. If you're an atheist and God doesn't exist, you have finite freedom but no infinite upside. So, like it says, it's always better to believe. Again, people don't have control. So, anyway, going off of Pascal's wager, so what if I don't believe or whatnot? I'm this guy saying whatever, do you want to, give your life over to the Lord? Sure, why not? Sure. And that's usually because, being Jake, we have a zeal but not according to knowledge. I was like, that's fine. Why not? Why not? What would I seek to lose in this situation? And but they do those things, and it just seemed very. It was right out in the middle of the square, you know, with a bunch of people passing by. It just seems very theatric. Like they want passerbys to see. They're always doing these things. Group prayers. They're always doing these things because they want to be seen, and that's the Christian madness. But they're not talking about things that like really matter, right? They're not really talking about things that matter. So that's what we're talking about today. Things that matter. We're talking about. Well, first we're gonna get actually what this thing is. Things that matter, all right? And the reason why, you know, I was watching this video the other day, actually just earlier today with this nun, and they're like, what's the definition of sin? She says, anything that separates you from God. Well, sure, but sin is literally the transgression of the law, okay? And they asked her, what happens when you die? She said, we don't know. She said, is the Lord going to come back? She says, we don't know. All right, and if he is, we don't know when he's going to come back, maybe not in my lifetime. What's going to happen when he comes back? She said, we don't know. Well, the Bible gives you all that. How do you not know? Right? I made plenty of lessons on what's going to happen when Yahushua returns. It ain't going to be good for these individuals. Okay? Lord willing, it'll be well for us, but it's not going to be well for them. Right? So, anyway, Korean grilled hagfish. It says Korean grilled hagfish, locally known as gomjangyo, or however the hell you pronounce it, is a popular seafood delicacy, especially in the coastal city of Busan. The creature is skinned and often cooked while still writhing due to muscular restrictions to heat, or reactions to heat, excuse me. It is typically grilled over charcoal with onions, garlic, and a spicy chili yangnyum sauce, or stir-fried with sesame oil and salt in salt versions. So I guess there's a couple different ways. Skinning, cleaning. The hagfish is skinned and gutted, placed immediately onto a hot charcoal grill. The pieces continue to move on the grill because the muscle tissue reacts to heat and nerve stimulation, even though the animal's already butchered. Well, the other thing is, like, Asians like to skin their animals alive, which is pretty fucking cruel and inhumane. I mean, you're supposed to kill it, right? You're supposed to have compassion against animals, not against animals, for animals, all right? He that regardeth not the life of his beast is brutish, right? Roughly paraphrasing. So, you're barbaric, man. So, you know, your beast, a beast in general, you know, even with a cow, if I'm killing it to eat it, not that I've ever killed a cow to eat it, but if I had to kill a cow to eat it, or, you know, think about what the Native Americans did. Now, they were probably saying some bugged out ass prayers. But when they killed an animal, they prayed over the animal and thanked, you know, whatever God they were worshiping, and thanked the animal for its sacrifice, and made sure to use every single part of its body. You know, they didn't want it needlessly suffering, okay? And usually if they hit it and it was laying there dying, they would, you know, while it was dying, they would, you know, hold it and, you know, give it comfort in its final moments of life, and thank you for the food. You know, these Moabites, you know, Edomites do it to an extent, but I don't think anybody's as bad with that shit as Moab, because they just don't regard, you know, animals' lives. They'll just skin them, they'll just rip their skin right off while they're, you know, they're bad, man. They're bad. You know, you see it here cooking on a grill. It's just, ugh. Doesn't even look like something I'd want to have, right? Doesn't even look like something I want to have, especially if you see it's a type of eel, all right? It's a type of eel. But if we go and look in this shit when it's alive, man, why would you want to eat this? Okay, I think this is one of those fish they call the penis fish. Okay, and you can see it says hagfish are primitive eel-like jawless marine animals known for producing massive amounts of slime as a defense mechanism that clogs predators' gills, allowing them to escape. So I think this is the one called a penis fish, right? And the reason they call it a penis fish is not only because it looks a little, you know, like a penis in general, right? As you can see on the screen right now. Not only does it look a little bit like one, when they get attacked, it, you know, out of its mouth here, it like sprays the slime right out of it. So, you know, that's why they call it the penis fish. I'm going to go and look up all the slime. Right? That's what it looks like. So put all 2 and 2 together. You can, you know, only make the assumptions. Right? Trying to keep it as Sabbath friendly as possible. But that's what they call it. Right? Gets in the way and clogs up the gills. I mean, I don't even know. Yeah, look, you can even buy hagfish slime. For what? For what? I bet women are rubbing that shit on their faces, honestly. That's what they be doing. All these, they have mucinol or whatever, mucinol, that shit from snails. And completely ridiculous. But anyway, so let's go and get Deuteronomy 6 and 24. All right. Well, before we get Deuteronomy, let's go and get the law. Okay. Leviticus 11 and 9 through 12. Okay. This is part of the dietary law that's dealing with river creatures, animal creatures, waters. All right. Whatever they happen to be. It says, verse 9, Leviticus 11 and 9. These shall ye eat of all that are in the waters, whatsoever hath fins and scales in the waters, in the seas, in the rivers, them shall ye eat. So does this have fins and scales? No, it doesn't. It's an eel. It's an eel. It doesn't have fins and scales. Shouldn't be eating it. It says, and all that have not fins and scales in the seas and in the rivers, of all that move in the waters, and of any living thing which is in the waters, excuse me, they shall be an abomination to you, which means you shouldn't eat them. Now, a lot of people like to take Yahushai's words, or as they would like to say in their ignorance, Jesus, they like to take his words out of context, and they say, oh, it's not that what enters into a man that makes him unclean, but that what exits. And that was dealing with was it the Pharisees? He was dealing with the individuals that were basically trying to say, oh, your men didn't wash their hands before they ate, basically trying to condemn them and say that's wicked. It says that's not wicked, right? It's not. It's you're trying to make it into a commandment. Commandments of men. That's where you also get that scripture from. You're making it into a commandment of men. And then he goes on to say later that it's not what enters into a man that makes him unclean, but that which comes out of him. And it was not talking about. Some people say, oh, he's talking about the food. It's not, what enters into you is not what makes you unclean. It's not what he was talking about. You can take it out of context and get that, but it's not talking about that. Okay, it's talking about corrupting you. All right, fully. Okay, making you into there's a lot to it. Making you into a wicked person, being, if we go and get that, matter of fact, it's not what enters into a man's mouth. KJV, we can go and get it so I can, all right, here, Matthew 15 and 11 through 20, it says, there's a couple different verses I think that, kind of say the similar things, but this one will work. It says, so these were the Pharisees. It says, not that which, no, let's just go from 11. Not 11, but verse 1 is what I meant. Okay, it says, we'll start from the top. Verse 15 and 1, it says, Then came to Yahushai, scribes and Pharisees, which were of Jerusalem. And mind you, not all the Pharisees were wicked. A lot of people say, the Pharisees were, not all of them. It says, Why do thy disciples transgress the tradition of the elders? For they wash not their hands when they eat bread. See, why are they transgressing the tradition of the elders? Why are they breaking that tradition? They're basically trying to say, this is our tradition. They're trying to make it like a law, right? Like, they're wicked because they did that, right? But Yahushua answered and said unto them, Why do ye also transgress the commandment of Yahweh by your tradition? For Yahweh commandeth, saying, Honor thy father and mother, and he that curseth father or mother, let him die the death. But ye say, Whatsoever shall say to his father or mother, It is a gift by whatsoever thou mightest be profited by me. And honor not his father or his mother, he shall be free. Thus have ye made the commandment of Yahweh of none effect with by your tradition. Ye hypocrites, well did Isaiah prophesy of you, saying, This people draweth nigh unto me with their mouth, and honoreth me with their lips, but their heart is far from me. Lip service. Yeah, well, that's what the Christians do, right? They try to, and they're not even honoring him because they're using a wrong name. But I love God and all that. Well, how? All right? If you love God, you're going to do what? Keep his commandments. Right, but they don't keep his commandments. They don't want all the laws were done away with, right? Which doesn't make sense, because if the laws were done away with, the laws were done away with. That means we can kill, we can murder, we can steal. All right, we can go and commit adultery because those laws, those are the 10. But we got to keep the 10 commandments. Why? The 10 commandments are a part of the law. Okay, there's nowhere that you only have to keep the 10. There's actually 613 laws. All right, but they decided to get rid of 603, chuck those out, and just keep 10. That was nowhere. Right, they got rid of the blood sacrifices. Right, they got rid of those, and that's it. They kept everything else. Right, they got rid of. Well, not really. They didn't keep it. They got rid of all the blood sacrifice. They got rid of all the other like I said, 603, and then they just kept the 10. So they say all those laws are done away. Well, here's the thing: if the law was done away with, it would be done away with unanimously. okay, in total unification. It's gonna be done away with. There's not gonna be, oh, it's done with, the law is done away with. Oh, keep the 10. No, the law was done away with. It was done away with. You're done. Okay, and nowhere was the law ever done away with. All right, we're just not under the law. All right, we're under grace because we can't keep the law to the best of our ability. But that doesn't mean we should not be trying. It's in that same verse. Read the 15th verse. All right, because in the 14th verse it says, you're not under the law. All right, but under grace. It says in the 15th verse, it says, what then? Because you are under grace, shall we sin because we're not under grace? Shall we sin because we're not under the law but under grace? Yahweh forbid. Okay, so should you be breaking the law because you're not under the law? Because that's what sin is transgression of the law, literally missing the mark. Sin is missing the mark. So because you missed the mark, all right, should you just continue to mess up, right? Should you just live in sin? No, absolutely not. But what is sin? Transgression of the law. So if the law was done away with, that's the other thing. We're all sinners. Well, none of us are sinners. Not a single one of us is sinners then. Going to the Christian tradition, all right, because if that was the case, if the law was done away with, sin is a transgression of the law. If law is done away with, you can't transgress the law. You can't break the law because there is no law. Okay? And if there is no law and you can't break no law, you can't sin because sin is a transgression of law. So there's no sinners. You can't sin. It's impossible. The law is done away with. Okay? And Christians like to go ahead and quote, they like to say, oh, well, Jesus came back and he fulfilled the law. Well, Yahushua did come back and he did come to fulfill the law. But fulfilling something, when you fulfill an order, you're making sure it gets complete. You're not doing away with it. You're making sure it gets complete. All right? If I fulfilled an agreement, the agreement didn't go away. All right? It was done. All right? It depends, it depends on the context. And a lot of people get that wrong. Well, if you fulfilled an agreement, that means the agreement's done. Well, not always. All right? It depends. What was the agreement? All right? If you fulfilled it, right, it might be, that it might only be fulfilled upon death. All right? Living a whole life of some of these, monks, they do a whole life of chastity, never touching a woman, right? And in order to fulfill that, they have to go they have to die to basically pass, to basically win. They have to die. That's their crowning achievement, is death, because that means that they were able to fulfill that to the best of their ability. So people don't understand that with Yahushua. He came here to keep the law to the best of his ability, and while he was on earth, and he did. He didn't sin not once as Yahushua. Okay? So he fulfilled it. He fulfilled the law, which means he kept every single law, did it perfectly. Okay? That's what fulfilling the law means. Doesn't mean fulfill as in going away. People think, oh, I fulfilled that, request, and now that request is done, and I don't have to have anything to do with it. That's a different type of fulfillment. You're thinking fulfillment as in like business fulfillment, and that's not what it's talking about. All right, but even with that, you fulfilled something. That means the disagreement just didn't go away. It's just you got it done, right? It was complete. Still had to be, it doesn't get thrown away and incinerated. It had to be done. You fulfilled it. Okay, it was done. That's what fulfilling means, is to make something done. What does it mean to fulfill? Accomplish a task, meet a requirement, realize a promise, or emotionally satisfied, or fulfill. All right, basically get something done. You accomplished something. You got something done. A task, meet a requirement, right? You fulfilled it. Okay, you met a requirement. What did Yahushua meet the requirement of? As you would say in your ignorance, Jesus, what did he meet the requirement of? Keep the law. Okay, notice how it didn't say fulfill means done away with. All right, yet time and time again, that's what you guys try to go on and say. Anyway. And that's when, in verse 9, it says, but in vain do they worship me, teaching for doctrines the commandments of men. It says, Slack you. Slack you with that. It says, but in vain do they worship me for, where were we? Yeah, we'll just start from 9 again. It says, but in vain do they worship me, teaching for doctrines the commandments of men. So they're saying, oh, this is a law. This is a law. It's not a law. Okay? It's nowhere in the Bible. All right? Now, yes, it's also mentioned in the Bible that, yeah, we would wash our hands, but you can't say because someone didn't. It's not a law, though. Okay? That's just something that we were known to do. Okay? But it was not a law. Okay? It's not like a commandment. Okay, there's no commandment, thou must wash your hands. Okay, And if you don't wash your hands before you eat, now you're dirty, and I mean, it is still a little dirty, but again, you're not wicked, right? You're not sinful because you didn't wash your hands. Should you wash your hands before you eat? Absolutely. No one's going to argue with that. Some people might, actually. I'll take that back. Some people might, I'll never wash my hands. It's always some bugged out Jake out there. Actually, you should never wash your hands, right? Jake always, there was always some Deep Space Nine shit. But in verse 10, so listen, it says, and he called the multitude and said unto them, hear and understand, not that which goeth into the mouth defile a man, but that which cometh out of the mouth, this defileth a man. So this wasn't dealing with food. Okay? This wasn't dealing with food. All right? I mean, it was dealing with food because they were about to eat, but this wasn't dealing with unclean animals being eaten. Okay? This is dealing with unwashed hands. Okay? They said it was dirty, and he said, look, it's not what goes into a man that defiles him, but that which cometh out. Okay? And it was in the middle of a rebuke to these individuals. But they like to say, oh, no, that means you can eat everything you want. It's not what it's talking about. Context, man. Context. So continuing on, back to Leviticus 11 in verse 10. Excuse me. So it says, and all that have not fins and scales in the seas and in the rivers, and all that move in the waters, and of any living thing which is in the waters, they shall be an abomination unto you. Can't eat them. And no, that law was never done away with. All right, you still can't be eating this shit. If you do it, hey, that's on you. All right, it's going off, but we ain't gonna fall down on our knees and beg you not to do it. We'll warn you not to do it, but if you want to eat it, go right ahead. I'm not gonna stop you. Right? I'm not gonna go slap some catfish off your plate. It says, they shall be an abomination unto you. Ye shall not eat of their flesh. Ye shall not have their carcasses in abomination. Whatsoever hath no fins nor scales in the waters, that shall be an abomination unto you. A lot of Jake just don't want to listen. They don't want to learn, right? They like eating that swine, which is pork, right? They want to stay on that. What can we do? They like eating catfish, all right? Catfish, it's got fins, but it ain't got no scales, right? Can't eat it. Cannot eat it. What's another one that they like to eat? Sturgeon. Can't eat sturgeon, right? Swordfish, you can't eat that shit. Shark, can't eat it. Calamari, can't do it. No shrimps, right? Shrimps, can't have none. No scrimps, right? No crab, no lobster. See, Jake start getting pissed off. No crab, no lobster. What the fuck am I supposed to eat then? I don't know. Chicken, beef, lamb. You know how many things you can make with chicken, beef, and lamb? All right, fish, right? That has scale. I mean, you can even. I think you can eat a giraffe. Let me see. Yeah, giraffes are technically kosher because they have completely split hooves and they chew the cud, right? It says, however, giraffe meat is virtually impossible to find or consume. So, yeah, man, it's technically, see, but people say, oh, they like a big horse, so I can eat horse. Can't eat a horse, though. They chew the cud, but they're not fully cloven-hooded, all right? They're not fully cloven-footed. So giraffes are. They're different. They might look like a bigger horse, and they don't even really look like a big horse. They're a completely different thing, but people call them like a big horse. They're not, all right? I've been to zoos. I've seen them. They're great-looking creatures. I love giraffes. But they're kind of like horses. I mean, in a way, but I don't know. You know, I would definitely say they're maybe they have some things that are like horses. I mean, they got a tail like a horse. They got long legs like a horse, but everything that has long legs ain't a horse, right? Deers have long legs. They are not a horse, right? I'd argue that deer are probably, almost closer to horses looking than giraffes. I mean, giraffes got those weird kind of like, they have those ears. They kind of look like a Shrek. All right. Or those are horns. Never mind. They got little horns and stuff. And their face, maybe a little. Not really. I mean, they look completely different than a horse. If you really put a horse and a giraffe side by side, I mean, sure. There could be some things you can say. They got different looking tails. They got different looking ears, different looking noses. But people like to, like, oh, it's basically like a horse. And this motherfucker, you go out in the wild and you say that's a horse. That ain't no goddamn horse. Okay, that's no horse. Okay, that's a horse. Anyway, getting off topic. Let's go and get Deuteronomy 6:24, right? And I forgot. Let me not forget. I looked up health risks of eating hagfish, right? Because I'm sure there was some shit, right? Sure there was some shit. It said it can't generate AI overview. You just generated a minute ago saying it was toxic. There you go. Eating hagfish primarily carries the standard health risks associated with consuming bottom-dwelling marine scavengers, which most of those motherfuckers are unclean. You know, bottom-dwelling marine scavengers, shrimps, lobsters, crabs, oysters, clams, all these different things, right? It says catfish, right? Koi, they're technically clean. They're technically kosher, but you don't want to eat no damn koi. It says not koi. They call them a different name. They have koi. Koi. What's the official name? They're called. They have a type of fish. They're carp. Carp are technically kosher. All right, you can look that up. Is carp kosher? Should say yes. Yes, it is kosher, but you don't want to eat that shit. All right. Says carp is famously used in primarily ingredient in traditional European Jewish dishes like gefilte fish. You don't want to eat none of that shit. I heard it's nasty. It doesn't even taste good. But health risks. It says the most notable concerns are heavy metal accumulation, such as mercury. You're going to get that in your tuna as well. It says exposure to environmental toxins like PCBs and dioxins, and a mild risk of gastrointestinal and discomfort if the skin and slime are not cleaned properly. All these different things, man. Bacterial and parasitic infections. Like almost all raw, undercooked seafood, hagfish carry harmful bacteria, vibrio, or parasites. Consuming them raw risk of food poisoning or parasite. Now, I heard somewhere that up here it was talking about there was a... Now, it changed. It changed because they were talking about there was some extra bacterial concerns. So, aren't there some extra bacterial concerns with them over regular fish? Because it had it, right? It had it, and when I had to regenerate, because AI is not available, I don't know why it went out, but it completely got rid of it. So let's see if it brings that back up. It says, yes, there are extra bacterial concerns unique to hagfish that go beyond what you would expect from standard commercial fish. Their distinct biology, habitat, and feeding habits create a much higher risk for bacterial exposure and rapid spoilage. So here we go. It says hagfish are deep sea scavengers whose diet consists of almost entirely carrion. It's going to explain it. Decaying and rotting whale falls, or dead fish on the ocean floor. This constant contact with decomposing organic matter forces their digestive tract and outer bodies into intimate contact with massive loads of marine pathogens and viruses the standard predatory or herbivorous fish simply do not encounter. The slime is a bacterial trap. There you go. The famous defensive slime produced by hagfish is incredibly dense, composed of a complex protein threads and mucus. While the slime itself is not chemically toxic, it's highly viscous and acts like a physical trap. If a hagfish is stressed during capture, it releases mass amounts of mucus that trap the ambient bacteria from the surrounding water and its own skin. If the slime isn't thoroughly stripped away immediately, it creates an ideal microenvironment for bacteria to multiply. There's all sorts of different shit. But this, again, the Lord gave us His commandments to help us, in our lives, right, in multiple ways. And one of it is, this is hard. Why are you going to eat something that's harmful? This is Deuteronomy 6:24. It says, and the Lord commanded us to do all these statutes, these are laws, to fear the Lord our power for our good, always, that He might preserve us alive, as is it as this day. For our good, right? So the commandments are for our good, That's the thing. They're not just for, because he said so. And even if he did, he's a Lord. He can do whatever he wants. But those were done to preserve us alive, as it says, to keep it, for our good. You're over here eating frickin' catfish asshole soup that's got all these toxins in it. What are you doing, man? So this is Proverbs 16:4. I'm going to get this one in the NLT. It says, the Lord has made everything for his own purposes, even the wicked for a day of disaster. Well, why is it here then? His own purpose. These things are for cleaning. All right. What ecological effects do hagfish help with? It does something beneficial. They're vital to deep-sea ecosystems, primarily acting as the ocean's cleanup crew to recycle organic matter, carrion removal. They eat dead shit. That's what they're for, right? The Lord created everything for, his own purpose. Some of those things are for good. Some of those things are for bad. Some of those things are for eating. Some of those things are for not eating, so on and so forth. Look, like it says, even the wicked for the day of the dead. He created the wicked. He created the opposition. Why? Because without any opposition, what's the story to be told, man? Right? What's the story to be told? So a lot of people want to get in on that and talk about logistics and bullshit and why the Lord would do this, why the Lord would do that. Look, those bottom feeders, they're the cleanup crew, man. You're eating the cleanup crew. You might as well go into a fucking your local restaurant, go in the back and dig out one of the trash cans and just start putting that shit in your mouth. It's all the cleaned up shit, right? You might as well. Right? So this is John 5:2 through through 3. We're gonna get this one in the King James version. You can get it. You can pause and look at what it said if you want, but I got the last one in the NLT, so I want to get this in the KJV. You can get the other one in the KJV as well. But it says 1 John 5:2 through 3. It says, but this we know, that we love the children of Yahweh, and we love Yahweh and keep his commandments. For this is the love of Yahweh, that we keep his commandments, and his commandments are not grievous. Now, I do want to get the NLT on this one as well, because some people might be tossed up. What does grievous mean? What's, difficult, something that's hard to go through. But this is the NLT, and it says, plainer English, it says, we know we love Yahweh's children if we, if we love Yahweh and obey his commandments. Loving Yahweh means keeping his commandments, and his commandments are not burdensome. They're not that hard, man. They're really not that hard. Don't kill, don't lie, don't steal, don't get with other men's wives. All right, keep the Sabbath to the best of your ability. Don't eat abominable shit. It's really not that hard, man. There's never one day that I go and I'm just like, man, these laws are just holding me back so much. They're just, they're really holding me back. There's all these different things I want to do. No, man. What do I want to do? I want to go out and murder? No. Do I want to go out and get with some man's wife? No. Absolutely not. Do I want to go and, shoot up heroin on the side of the street? No. All right. Do I want to go and eat catfish? No. I don't want to do all that. All right. I don't need to do all that. And there are things that I used to eat back in the world that, sometimes I think about. And when I see them, I say, oh, yeah, that, I remember the taste. I remember, oh, that used to taste good. But, the other thing is that we have self-control, man. Okay? There's going to be times that we go through temptation. But, is it really worth it to die over? One of the things that I really liked back in the day was chorizo. All right? Chorizo, if you don't know, it's basically pork intestine. It's chopped up armpits, tits, and beaks. All right? All sorts of different types of shit that's all chopped up. Some people like to refer to it as the factory floor scrapings. I used to love chorizo, right? I thought chorizo tasted really good. Okay, really good. Now, if I crave the taste of chorizo, you can go and get beef chorizo. Now, you have to make sure it doesn't have the lymph nodes and glands and shit. Basically, it's spiced a certain type of way. And but you can get it because you don't want to be eating organs. That's why you don't want to get the lymph nodes and glands and shit, because a lot of them have that. But there's another brand. Oh, excuse me. Oh, I know you can get it at Kroger. I don't have none of that. It's just beef and some seasonings. All right, and it tastes equivalent enough. Right? If you have the craving, and it's been so long since you've had chorizo, you don't know what the shit tastes like anymore. You remember roughly what it tastes like. All right, hell, now anytime I go to a store, right, or a store, I eat out fast food or something like that because you got to run and get some, not every time, again, it's not best to eat fast food, but sometimes, can't cook or something busy. And I taste something smoky in my meal. The first thing I go, is that bacon? And I don't think it's bacon. I don't know, but it might be bacon. I don't know. I don't remember what bacon tastes like. I have no idea. Well, I do remember what bacon tastes like because when I do eat bacon, I eat beef bacon, and let me tell you, that's indistinguishable from pork. All right, if you brothers out there you like bacon, go and get you some beef bacon. All right, because I actually gave it to an individual that worked at my job. He's a younger black guy I was cool with. Before he ended up, getting fired, he said, "What are you eating? I thought you didn't eat pork." I'm like, "I don't eat pork. This is beef bacon." He says, "That looks just like regular bacon." I said, "Yeah, it does look like regular bacon." I said, "It tastes like regular bacon too." I said, "Because I don't like a lot of brothers. You'll hear them talk about, or you'll hear them talk about turkey bacon." Or you'll hear other people, even outside of the truth, talk about it. I fucking hate turkey bacon. My wife likes turkey bacon. She's like, I like turkey bacon. I hate turkey bacon. The shit's floppy. My favorite thing about pork bacon was that it crisped up. All right? It was crispy. That's the best part of it, right? You get fucking turkey bacon, it don't crisp up. Turkey bacon's more like eating a slab of Canadian ham or Canadian bacon. Like it's like Canadian, it's just a slab of ham. I don't like that shit. All right, it tastes rubbery. All right, it tastes like I'm eating a fucking eraser or some shit. It tastes like not an eraser. It tastes like I'm eating one of those rubber rulers from back in the 2000s. That's what it tastes like to me. So the only thing I like the meaty flavor and the umami flavor, as they call it, the meaty flavor, the savory flavor, and I like the crispiness. And you get that with beef. Now beef bacon's a little bit more expensive, but you can get it. So I mean, look, you don't need. It's no reason to die over a fucking fish or some other thing you're eating, man. There's always opportunities. You like pepperoni? Go and get you can get beef pepperoni. You can get turkey pepperoni. I like turkey pepperoni. Turkey pepperoni's good. What else? You like, again, pork chorizo? Well, you can go and get beef chorizo. You like, what else? Let me try and think. Pork chops? You can have lamb chops. Not going to taste exactly the same, right? But they're good. I didn't like pork chops out in the world. I don't really care for lamb chops now, if I'm being honest with you. Don't really care for lamb. I'm a steak guy. I like steaks, primarily. I like, beef. But but if I like lamb, I don't like it in a chop. I like it in a kebab, like Mediterranean kebab, usually mixed with, or I like it in a gyro. Those are pretty good, but I don't like just sitting there just eating a slab of. Let's say I'm the only thing I like sitting and eating a slab. I'm gonna close this out. I'm rambling now, but the only thing I like sitting and eating a slab out of is pretty much just steak. I don't like baked chicken like that. I mean, I like grilled chicken. Right, and as unhealthy it is, I like fried chicken. I'm trying to get my diet back in check. It goes in and out, but because I had that health issue for a while where I couldn't, eat hardly anything. It's coming back slightly. Again, I don't want to take advantage. It's just hard, man. We do have the mercy of Yahweh Shem Shai eating right, but sometimes we have to go and eat fast food. We have to eat things that aren't necessarily the best for us, but at the same time, it's like you don't have to eat pork. That's not something you have to do. So there's no excuse. It's the only thing I can afford. It's the only thing you can afford. I've seen the prices of pork. All right, I go in a supermarket and I get curious. I look at the price of pork, not to buy it, but I'm just seeing, what prices are going on, and it's about the same price as a pack of chicken these days. You're right. Pork used to be cheap. It ain't so cheap nowadays. Last time I looked at the price of pork is because in the store that I go to, the Smith, it's like a Kroger. Or Fry's, depending on where you're at, or Fred Meyer. They call it different. It's a Kroger store. It's owned by Kroger. And where they have us in our location, they have the red meat in one section. Well, not really. They have the beef. Excuse me. I'm trying to think of it. They have the beef on one section, and it usually goes pork, beef, and then chicken. And that's for like in the like the slabs. Like the pork chops are over there, and then all those things, and then you got the chicken wing. But for the wings and the pork are generally pretty close to each other. Like if you want to get a pack of like breasts or a pack of they keep like the ground beefs and ground meat separate in different little sections. But they have the at one point at least they had the chicken wings and gizzards and all this other shit right next to the pork. And last time I checked, the wings like $10, all right, for a tiny little package, and then by like a couple pieces of pork, I mean it was like $7. I mean you might as well just go with the wings. Well, it's gonna feed you more, barely, right? I mean if you look at the ounces, I mean they're almost equivalent in ounces. You might as well just spend a little bit more and get the chicken, right? So, and like I said, that's just me. Again, even before this truth, I didn't like the taste of pork chops, but that's just me. But a lot of Jake out there, they're ready to die over some pork. They're ready to die over some hagfish. And the thing is, sure, this is Moab doing it, this hagfish shit. Fucking Jake nasty ass, they go and try it. What is that, hagfish? Oh, they call it a penis fish. That's kind of weird though. Does it taste good though? Is it fried? Oh, it tastes like catfish. I'm gonna try it. Jake's just simple, man. A lot of people are gonna die just because, again, they don't want to follow the Lord. They don't want to, they don't love the Lord. I do love the Lord. Well, if you love him, you keep his commandments, man. And that's part of it, is keeping dietary law. So that's where it close out. Lord willing, it's edifying. Again, I want to give all praise, honor, and glory to the Most High, Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem Akakwadash. Shalom, you brothers and sisters out there. Keep enduring, keep the faith. If you're new around here, man, don't die over a fish. It just be simple. Don't do it, man. Repent while you still have time. Until next one, Lord willing. Shalom.